Yo, yo, what's up, my people? What's going on, man? Another week of college football, man. I must say, only a couple of top 10 losses this week. Um, was none last week. Everybody held on, but now this week we got a couple more. What Georgia Tech falling down to NC State. I said that was a bit of a trap game to me personally, just the way I watched the game. I'm not gonna say that everybody called that and everybody foresaw that, but if you watch the channel and you or if you watch my channel, then you know what I mean? You had a feeling because obviously you watching me. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and share, man. Share with your friends, your family members, people in your that you know that like sports in your family. You know somebody that likes sports, go ahead and share my channel with them. And and let them be the judge of me or whatnot. All right. Don't keep me all to yourself. Look, I must say, looking at this week of football, man, it was great ball. There was some upsets and in all conferences. As y'all know, I try to cover all sports as much as I possibly can. It's a lot. It is a lot, especially with me not being able to lock in and do it 24/7. So if you definitely want to see more Truck and Chubby, you know what I'm saying? Your boy Chubbs, you definitely gonna have to help the channel grow. Like hit that like button, share me as much as you can. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in the truck all week. You know what I mean? So um when I do get the time to sit down, I'm usually watching games for at least that's probably at least 5 hours. It's commercial free because I'm skipping through the commercials and getting straight to the games, and um it's just crazy. You know what I mean? Watching a whole bunch of games. It's over 30 games that I got to go back and watch and review. Um, on top of trying to remember all the coaches' names, players' names, certain things, and it's a lot. You know what I mean? I see why people have teams and building whole teams to even to completely run a show. You know what I mean? It's a lot. It's a lot. But I'm out here grinding. And you know what I'm saying, trying to get the respect of athletes and everything. But I do this the fans' point of view style. You know what I mean? I'm a fan of the game. I love the game so much that I give it that much respect to actually be as researched as possible, and don't claim to know everything. That's why I said as research as possible, and studying it, man, because that's what it's all about. But as y'all can see, I got the week 11 matchups up there right now. We'll possibly go through the rankings. I'm not sure about the rankings right now, but I'll talk about it here in a second. A lot of fans are going to be upset with me when I get done talking about the rankings because I feel as that, I mean, fair is fair, right? And some teams have dropped down and some teams are just not moving. And I kind of I understand where fans go when they're talking about the SEC, right? When fans is talking about the SEC and that one these cupcake games coming up, such as this Ole Miss playing the Citadel, why everybody else is in the meat and potato. It's crunch time. They're in the meat and potatoes of their conference right now, trying to maintain their record to make the college football playoff, and they're playing the Citadel. Well, however, you're not playing, and the thing is, the SEC bias is real, but until each conference can get, and they're getting there, but it's going to take time for them to actually get there, and it's not like the programs are scheduling SEC matchups. They're not, you know what I mean? It's not like they're taking the best from that year and trying to schedule those matchups early on in their season because they don't want to risk that loss. You know what I'm saying? So regardless of how we may feel as fans, these coaches are not doing that. You know what I mean? If you're a coach at, let's just say, Boston College or Pittsburgh, we're not scheduling Ole Miss the third week in our season. They're not trying to even do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem as fans. We just don't see that. You know what I mean? But me being around and long enough in this game to know to respect that, that's exactly what's happening. It's not like they're not available, or Alabama or somebody, they would probably love to go to Oregon or Penn State or Iowa early on, but if you're those schools, you don't really want to take those risks early on. That's why shout out to Ohio State. They take Texas the first game off the bat, and shout out to Texas for taking Ohio State right off the bat, because that's not easy, and all schools are not doing that. All coaches are not with that. So, if you want to give props to anybody, that's what giving Sark, regardless how you may feel about him, his props, and giving Ryan Day, regardless of how you may feel about him, his props, because schools are not doing that early on, right? And that's the problem, um, and we don't see that as fans. We just see, our teams in the ACC or the Big 12, they got to play Big 12 opponents such as BYU taking on Texas Tech. That game can possibly hurt one of those teams. Going to I don't think it hurts. It only hurts Texas Tech if they lose, right? So if you're a Texas Tech fan, you're like, well, this and that, Georgia's not doing this, or Ole Miss is playing this game, but you're not playing Georgia in the same season as you're playing Texas or Tennessee, or you know what I mean. So and then you have to play A&M, just like Florida. Florida plays a straight gauntlet. Like, nobody's doing that. You're not playing 3 or 4 SEC teams in a season. And until these conferences can get the talent and it's showing, because it's not showing because there's a lot of inconsistencies in these other conferences. Now we all know that college football and the SEC conference itself is like it's they beat up on each other, right? And that's what they're doing, right? Like, some of these teams are losing, but however, like when it gets to this time in the year, I don't know if you're going to see a Alabama take a loss to Mississippi State at this season, at this time of the year. It's just, I mean, it's crunch time. This team has already been rolling. You got a better chance of doing that to Bama or Georgia or one of these teams, for early on. You know what I mean? And shout out to Florida, because they played Georgia really well yesterday, and as I thought they could. I really do. I think Florida. We all know that Florida is a talented team. By now, by rather less than one. I hope you're listening to the right people. But if you're listening to the right people, then you definitely know that, Florida is loaded with talent. They really do. On a roster, on paper, this team is really, really good, right? But yeah, like, there's a lot of inconsistencies, and a lot of some of these conferences. Like, you see Miami, a team that, even myself hold in high regard, and a lot of people out there has a lot of respect for Miami, lose to a SMU team, and saying that, and SMU is not bad, but then a week before, SMU struggles with a Wake Forest team and almost lose, and Georgia Tech even almost lost to Wake Forest, but Wake Forest got boat raced. They got beat with a switch. Grandma told them to go get the switches. She braided up 3 switches on them, and old school beat them with the extension cord. They got extension cord. You know what I mean? They whatever. It was worse than just a BTA. You got to come up with something new to that. But, and that was by Florida State. And Florida State is one of the bottom teams in the ACC, right? So there's a lot of inconsistencies. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though Georgia Florida is a bottom team, but and there's not a lot of teams in the Big 12 or the ACC that can play Florida right now and beat them. You know what I'm saying? They're loaded. They're a bottom tier SEC team. They're not a bottom tier college football team. See, and that's the problem. And it took me a while to see that, because me myself, to be honest, and I must be honest, I have a little bit of Big Ten bias. You know what I'm saying? That's me being a Northeast guy. You know what I'm saying? Let me just keep it real. So I got a little bit of the Big Ten bias in me. But even looking at that conference, I think we're slowly catching up. I think for sure we're catching up to the SEC for sure, slowly but surely. But still, I still don't think that even, a Maryland can even hang close with playing 3 of SEC teams. I think those are all 3 losses for a Maryland team as of right now. Now, I do think that Iowa can give some tough games, but where's their speed at? Where's Iowa's speed? That's a slow, methodical, defensive-led team that likes to run the ball. I think they can hang. You know what I'm saying? Michigan can probably hang, but you look at Michigan losing to Oklahoma. Oklahoma would be probably on some people's list, listed as a mid-tier SEC team. So you know what I mean? Like, I get it. That one Citadel game is really like it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't. It really doesn't matter because you're playing. You know, you got 6, 7 other conference games that you're playing teams that can easily win out in two of the Power Four conferences. You know, and be a top tier team. So it's just what it is, and until college football, and it's getting there, but there's inconsistencies with the Big 12 also. Um, Cincinnati's been undefeated, but a lot of people say, well, who has Cincinnati really played up until now? You know what I mean? And they get boat and they lost. They got boat raced by Utah. Well, Utah got boat raced by Utah, lost to BYU in a close game. BYU's undefeated right now, but you know what I'm saying? They still lost. They got beat on by Texas Tech. Texas Tech lost to Arizona, and Arizona, you know what I mean? And Arizona lost to and but they were able to beat Iowa State. So there's inconsistencies in these conferences, and I think that matters. Like when you're supposed to be a top tier team or a top team of your conference, you know, be that, you know what I mean? And I get it. You could say, well, your Big Ten, people could sit here and say, well, the Big Ten right now with Penn State being the way they are right now, you know, that's inconsistencies in the Big Ten. Well, I beg to differ because a lot of people got caught up into the hype of Penn State, include myself. But I really thought I knew that Drew Aller had some things to work on. I didn't think Drew Aller was perfect by far. He would have never had been the best ranked as preseason the best quarterback in the country on my list. And I'm not a professional who has all the resources of everyone else. I am who I am. You know, I'm not, but I don't have the resources of many others out here that does this. So, and I didn't have him in the top as a top quarterback in the country. I had him as a draftable prospect. I mean, you look at his size, him being 6'5", 230 pounds, could move around a little bit, but I knew that he had a ton of work on in close games. If it wasn't for Tyler Warren and a lot of those close games, making those catches that were very inaccurate at those points in the game, I don't think that that he would have got that far. But you put a Tyler Warren in the SEC, you give Tyler Warren a quarterback like a Cam Ward down at Miami last year. My Miami season is totally different. You put Tyler Warren on Ohio State Buckeyes last season. Nobody comes close, and nobody did come close. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, you give him a different college quarterback, and I think it's different. And it obviously showed up early on this season. And him being injured, and nobody wants to see that at all. But there was just some things they had to work on. But that's all college quarterbacks. All these quarterbacks have a ton to work on. None of them really, to me, at this point, come out pro ready. The guy that looks most, there's a couple of guys out there that look the professional ready right now, but even still, they're still turning the ball over. And I think Fernando Mendoza is turning the ball over because he's not scared of making those throws. You know what I mean? And the pros respect that, but still, at certain times, they want you to when you make those decisions, they want you to throw the ball away. But anyhow, long story short, I know I'm getting a little bloviating here, and I'm getting a little beside myself. It is what it is in college football. This is the way that college football is right now, and until the inconsistencies in these other conferences stop happening with these teams who are supposed to run the tables, we're going to continue on seeing. To me, in my opinion, I just don't see how you even this year, a 3-loss SEC team to me should be allowed in the playoffs this year. Yeah, I'm saying it. And like I said, and I have a Big Ten bias. You know what I'm saying? I really do. Um, and here's why though, because like I said, I just really explained it and broke it down. A 3-loss SEC team, I believe, can get through the first round of the playoffs. Whether that be a team like Oklahoma, or whether that be a team like Texas, A lot of teams in the country cannot beat those two SEC teams. You can look at the top tier teams right now. Virginia, they're top of the ACC right now. Pittsburgh, top of the ACC right now. Georgia Tech, top of the ACC right now. Do you see those teams beating Oklahoma or at Texas right now? I don't see that. That's just me. You know what I mean? But that's just me. I don't think that a lot of some of those teams can beat Indiana or Ohio State right now, or even Iowa. So you know what I mean. But that's where the inconsistencies lie. Does BYU even come close to beating a team like Oklahoma Sooners? No. I think they're a well disciplined team. I think that they're fundamentally sound, such as they remind me they are like they are really disciplined in what they're doing, and they're bought into what Kalani Sitake and that staff over there at BYU is doing, and they're doing exactly what they need to do, and that's what makes them a good football team. But even still, I don't, they couldn't go up against those teams. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. And when you have a team like Texas Tech taking unnecessarily losses in the Big 12 conference, that's the most complete team in college football. You got people that have played in the Big 12 saying that Jacob Rodriguez right now should be um even on the Heisman watch list right now because he's playing at a different level. He's doing other things. That's a very complete football team. Texas Tech is. Like I said, I was shocked that they lost to Arizona State. I was shocked. I said it. I was like, if Texas Tech takes a loss, I'm shocked. That's the most complete football team that I have seen. The BYU has shown to be a complete football team. They have shown that, but I think that Brendan Morton will turn the ball over sometimes. We seen that yesterday in the game. But you look at that team, the wide receivers, their run game. We got Cameron Dickey. Forget my name. The other running back. Forgive me for forgetting your name, fella. But you're doing an awesome job. And Douglas at receiver, Coy Eakin, Jacob Rodriguez being the captain of that defense over there, that defensive line, the way that it eats constantly, like that's a very the DBs, that's a very complete football team. And they're inconsistent losing to a team that, Arizona State's a good football team, and even they showed inconsistencies. They shouldn't have the two losses that they got in conference play. No way. No how. Arizona State and Texas Tech should been the two out of the big BYU being there without a quarterback. That just goes to show you how well coached of a team that is. But man, like that's what and that's also where I'm getting at. That's all I'm saying, and that's where I'm getting at. I do think that these other conferences are getting closer, but they're closing in. The closest to me is the Big Ten. The other conferences got ways to go, but they are putting together good football teams. But when you can put together a good, well-coached, well-disciplined football team, and you can play disciplined football, you can win a lot of games. Being just sound fundamentally, you look at Indiana; they're the perfect example of that. Perfect example. Guys just popping up like a melting pot of a plug and play of guys that come out of the portal that has came into a system and is doing exactly what their coach is asking them at a high level and bought 100% into what the schematics are offensively or defensively of that team and is executing at a high level. And that's what happens when you have that on the football field. Also playing disciplined football. But yeah, that's all. I'm gonna get off that and I'm gonna go into these games for next week because, and I got to talking about this because, man, we had Washington State lost to Oregon State. I believe Oregon State, they weren't even I believe they only had like one win before this game. They were at home, but Washington State played Ole Miss tough, rather Ole Miss sleptwalk through that game or whatever. You got to give them credit. Credit's due. Very close game versus Virginia, which is at the top of the ACC right now. And Virginia's balling. They played them tough also, but they wind up losing to Oregon State. So I definitely would say Washington State losing to Oregon State yesterday was an upset, and that was a game. Georgia Tech losing to NC State 36-48. NC State, I thought that it was the style of play that they played. When I seen them even lose to Pittsburgh Panthers, my Pittsburgh Panthers, what I seen was I seen a really good play. I seen something in that front six and the way that they were playing ball and they're able. And I was like, man, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, they're doing a pretty good job with Reed and our true freshman quarterback that is a dual threat and our team. And I'm like, that's a real high powered offense. And NC State's not looking too bad against them, even though we pulled the victory off. Right. So I'm like, man. So then I looked at Georgia Tech and I'm like, Georgia Tech don't, maybe even if they do have the weapons, it's Hayes King out. You know what I mean? It's Hayes King all the way out. I wouldn't very much rather try to keep him in the pocket. Definitely keep him in the pocket, just like they did their best job doing that, keeping him in the pocket, limited his quarterback runs, quarterback draws, counters, and powers, and they limited those. And they said, look, if you're gonna beat us, it's gonna be with your arm or handing it off to your running backs. You're not gonna do that. And NC State got receivers. CJ Bailey played a very good game, and they came out with the dub on that. And that's exactly what I was saying. That's why I said it was a bit of a trap game for Georgia Tech in that matchup, because styles make fights, right? The style of that football team, and that's just what it is, yeah. But Kentucky beating Auburn, big win for Kentucky. They've been scratching and clawing at it, and they were able to get a win from Auburn. Auburn, I have a lot of respect for that. The score was 10-3. That defense over at Auburn is fantastic. The offense just can't seem to get it done. Inconsistencies at the quarterback position with Auburn, I think it's really hurting those guys. But that defense has played. You don't believe me. I mean, I can give you the stats, and I can look up the stats and say, well, Auburn's defense is this from the eye test, from me watching the games with Auburn. Their defenses have kept them in games. And kept them games close and for the offense to be able to pull away with a victory. They lose a lot of one score games. And I prefer to say that, look, Auburn, if anything, this is the closest I've seen them play towards a winning team has I've seen in these past couple of years. Even though we all have been saying that Auburn is going to be better next year, but I really think they're close. So if they can retain a lot of that talent, really go and really evaluate the quarterback position and get a nice quarterback out of the portal, get some more get some more help on the outside. I think Auburn will be in good shape for, looking at towards next season. I would like to see what they got moving forward now and see if they got some young receivers that's willing to step up in these last couple of games and seeing what they got moving forward for the future. But them losing to Kentucky 10-3, I think that was an upset to me. All right. Kentucky had no wins going into that game. West Virginia handling Houston the way they did. Houston, that's another thing. That's another inconsistency we just talked about. Inconsistencies. West Virginia losing to Houston yesterday. That definitely West Virginia they've been playing terribly. They've won a game. They beat a guy. Let me come back to that game. Let me come back to that game because that's the first game I'm going to start off with, obviously, because Houston is playing UFC. So let me get back to that one with y'all, right? Oklahoma beating Tennessee yesterday. That was a bit of an upset for some people. Am I surprised they beat them? Absolutely not. I'm not surprised. We all know if John Mateer was healthy and he showed to be healthy, that he would have done this to a couple of teams. Oklahoma would be rolling. The Texas game, they possibly could have won that game. If Mateer had been healthy in that game, that was the game he come back. That thumb wasn't healthy. He was nursing it in that game, and if you watch that game, he also took a hit on the thumb, which even probably made it even more painful, and probably sore up a lot more. But it probably was very still sore after and during that game versus Texas. But made Terry look okay yesterday versus Tennessee, and they was able to get a victory, 33-27 out of Tennessee. Uh, Fresno, Fresno beating Boise State the way they did. They beat Boise State. They handled Boise State yesterday. Boise State, I think, was a 17.5 point favorite going into that game. And Fresno handled them. Yeah, I know it's the Mountain West, but like I said, I report on all college football. That's an upset. You know what I mean? That was an upset yesterday. Notre Dame even struggling with Boston College yesterday. They won 25-10. I think that Notre Dame has showed some humanity. Boston College did well with that run game, except for that one run. Except for Jeremiah Love, you just keep going at it, and they keep leaning on you. At some point, they're going to break. And they leaned on them. They leaned on them. They kept bending them and bending them. Eventually, that Boston College broke, and the dam upwind, and it flooded, and that's what pretty much happened with that. But at halftime, that game was anybody's game. Boston College was down to 12-7 halftime to Notre Dame. Boston College, a team in the ACC that was very much one of the bottom tier teams in the ACC right now. So I don't know. Moving forward, I guess Notre Dame is really going to. I wonder if those hits on Jeremiah Love is starting to catch up with him this late in the season. His body being a little sore. I know he's a younger guy, but all those hits start to add up, and they got a Pittsburgh defense coming up here soon. That got some linebackers that are very athletic linebackers, and they fly around, and that Pittsburgh defense flies around. So they're going to pose some problems to Notre Dame. I'm not looking at Notre Dame to just walk around, just run with that win, and then they're going to play Navy next week. So then I think they got Pittsburgh after Navy. So we'll see what happens with that Notre Dame and Pittsburgh game. I think that's going to be better than what a lot of people's looking forward to. But yeah, they're struggling with Boston College. New Mexico boat racing UNLV in the beginning. They was up 21-0 as I did, in the first quarter of that game. The first quarter. If you watched the game, then you probably would have said UNLV never had a chance, but UNLV was favorites in that game to beat New Mexico. And there's no excuse for that. I mean, New Mexico was getting at them. It's another Mountain West supposed to be going there. But that's what I mean. These inconsistencies in other conferences, but also the parity will show up in conferences to me like Mountain West, American Athletic, Sun Belt, and the MAC. I hate to say that, but yeah, that's where you'll see the parity take place. I do still think that most of these major teams will stay major, but it's catching up. The parity is definitely catching up. It's getting there, and I like it, but there is some inconsistency. Now back